Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Welcome, everybody, to Freed on Business. Is my good friend KC Conway, the Red Shoe Economist, gets his shameless plug and laughable stuff in there. Hey, that's me. I saw my reflection there, Casey. High five you on that. Casey and I are going to talk about all things real estate, all things economic. We'll talk infrastructure. We'll talk a lot of Florida today because a lot of people have been asking questions about Florida's place in the recovery. So stick with us. We're going to have a tremendous show. Reagan, take it away. Let's talk about Warren Henry. Then we'll be right back with what's going on in the economy. Things like where should people pivot, what the capital markets look like, and what's the future of growth look like in Florida. So, Reagan, take it away. Everybody, we're South Florida's longest running business talk show, and I want to thank our first responders, healthcare workers, our school teachers, and everybody who keeps the country going while we're in the middle of all this craziness. Of course, I also want to thank our good friends at Warren Henry, who've been our sponsors since 2012. When you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. They're all exceptional cars. They all come with the Warren Henry Advantage. What's the Warren Henry Advantage? Well, the Warren Henry Advantage is a suite of services that they give you when you buy your car. It includes complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee, the 72-hour exchange. That means you can try your car for 3 days. If you don't like it, well, you can switch it out. So join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family, as are many of my friends. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Hey, and if you're choosing kindness and want to do it so in business, give me a call at 305-773-6300. You can see by my guest today, I pretty much have my finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I've got great connections in all the big capital market centers across the country and into the universe, actually. I can even get capital from Mars. That's not true, but I thought it would sound good right there. And then give me a call at 305-773-6300. We're doing hard-to-finance jumbo loans for my friends that need to pull cash out of their house to help them make it through the upcoming recession. And I have another program with Bridge Money that I'm helping a lot of my commercial clients get from 2020 to 2021. So if I can help with capital, give me a call. 305-773-6300. Why? Because when you call me, it is always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we're back. We're here with KC Conway. KC is the president and founder of Red Shoe Economics, one of the South's premier economic forecasting companies, and we have him regularly on the show, hopefully about once a month, to talk about infrastructure and the impact of economics on real estate and the general economy. He's an expert on the state of Florida as well. And I've got my big blue background with all the infrastructure up just for him. Casey, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Jimmy. Glad to be here. I love the background. You've got everything that we should have in a city in your background. Windmills, bridges, rivers. You got it all, man.
Yes, sir, I sure do. And so do we, Casey. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's going on. Just a general overview. It's now 8 months since March 15th. And what have you seen just overall about the resiliency of the economy? Or where we thought we would be? Are we stronger? Are we weaker? What do you think?
So if you remember from the beginning, I said, look at, this isn't going to be, everybody hoped we'd just have a V recovery. The virus would go away. Everything would be fine. We'd open back up. And I said, look, you don't shut the world economies down and have a V. It would at least be a W. And let's hope it wouldn't be an L, which was the 1970s, where it went down and it was like a cardiac patient. It died. And I've been behind that all the way. We had some lift from the recovery of the states opening back up in May and June, but we've seen the virus expand and case count go up, but we're managing it better than we did 6-8 months ago. And so, we're setting a new record, I think a new daily record on number of cases. Europe is as well. But we are getting back to normal, whether it's learning how to interface or deal with the virus. We don't have as many of us dying from it. We have more therapies. If we believe what they tell us, a vaccine is on the horizon, but it's going to take another year for all of us to be able to get it. So I'm behind that W. We've been down, we lifted, and I fear that here this fall and in the first part of next year, we've got another trough, the other part of the W to go down before we come back up. A lot of things have to play out.
Now, Casey, we've got a lot of things that are going to play out. We won't talk about specifically the election, because no matter what happens in the election, there'll be we'll keep rolling in through all this. And while they have separate programs and policies, it's tough to project that at this time of who's going to win. So let's just talk in general. Now, a lot of people in real estate have seen their transactions drop. I think you said once recently, transaction volumes off about 70%.
Yeah, so we've had a record decline, whether it's the Real Capital Analytics folks or you look at any of these other, even CoStar. So we've dropped over 50%. It's even more than that. And it's different by property type. Worse in hotels. I think there's only like 10 a month that sell now in hotels versus, thousands. But multifamily is still transacting, industrial's hotter than whatever. And believe it or not, retail is still. If you got a grocery anchored or you got a center with a Tractor Supply, a Dollar General, Home Depot, there is retail that is functioning. But restaurant and kind of stuff that you used to buy in the malls is not doing well. But retail is not dead. It's evolving. Retail evolution.
So then let's just stick with that a little bit before we jump around, since you opened the door to retail. Everybody talks about retail. They talk about industrials, the next retail. They talk about quote unquote last mile industrial becoming retail. I can just simply tell you that my mind was blown when I wanted to get a little dorm type refrigerator for my office, wanted to get it at Target, and I used a service where somebody called me and said, "This is what we have. It's not what you wanted. Do you still want this?" I mean, it was incredible. So the ability for a person to stay at home and get exactly what they want, exactly when they want it. I mean, 2 years ago, my wife wouldn't order anything on Amazon or Walmart.com. And now, we've got a table out front just for the stuff to get offloaded on.
Yeah, I tell my wife my new anecdotal economic barometer is how many trips I need to take to the curb on trash pickup day for recyclable boxes that have come from e-commerce, and then I worry about what my credit card and bank statements are going to look like at the end of the month. But it's not just the boxes, but we're learning about click it and pick up. Walmart is doing a great job with that. We're finding though that grocers are great. When you have in Florida there, Publix is trying to do a safe, good thing. They've led through this thing. They did it with the first, give seniors first time during the day to get in. They've really done a great job. But what they're trying to do is add click it and pick up lanes, just kind of like a drive-through at a restaurant. But the local county governments say, that's a zoning violation and variance. So you got to come in because you're violating your parking ratio. Well, if you get a zoning variance, then you got to modify the lease. And if you modify the lease, then you got to modify the loan document. So just simple common sense things are really hurting retail, but it's resilient. We even have new retailers coming. Dollar General that does no e-commerce is crushing it. And they've even introduced a new concept called Pop Shelf. So they're going to go up a little bit. They're going to open the first few stores in Nashville, and then they'll probably be in Florida before next year. But it's to target a little different upscale suburban women, 50 to 120,000 demographic. But everything will still be under $5. But there are new concepts. There are successes in retail. It is not dead. As you know, a couple of our good colleagues, that we've got down there that are trying to remind people it's not all horrific.
No, it's not. Now, in talking about the retail, a number of people have tried to reinvent themselves in retail, in real estate, and they're making a pivot. For instance, in my personal world, I pivoted to doing some residential mortgages. It allowed me to keep calling all of my friends and seeing if they needed a residential mortgage. We've got a number of them going, and now we've got incredible bridge money that I'm bringing in from New York, and we can even do virtually the entire capital stack. So the capital is there, which is different than 2008. This is more consumer-driven recession. But what should people in real estate be thinking about as far as good careers going forward in real estate for the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah. So, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, it's all going to fall off the cliff. This is when I should not maybe pursue a career in real estate. And I'd argue just the opposite. When I've been the busiest and done the most in my career is when we've had disruption in real estate, because it's at those points of disruption that people really seek out an advisor or counsel like yourself, Jimmy. What do I do? Should I refinance? Should I buy? Should I sell? What should I do with my shopping center or my office building? They're seeking that advice. So my advice to colleagues, and we're doing that in the CCIM Institute. We have our global virtual conference next week with CCIMs. Invest in the education, beef up your skills, and dial into what's changing. So right now, we have a housing affordability crisis. We're going to see things like for rent subdivisions explode as a solution. Retail, we're going to see more of click it and pick up rather than just pure last mile. So I think Walmart is going to eat Amazon's lunch really over what they're doing with their new Walmart Plus program to go against Amazon Prime. 90% of us live within 10 miles of a Walmart store, so we can do click it and pick up. Other grocers are experimenting with delivering your grocered goods you order online to your neighborhood drugstore. We're finding office, another great boom opportunity for our suburban markets as we try to maybe get away from the dense markets. And you can't get everybody into the high-rise office building if you only put them in at 4 at a time. So I would say now, during periods of disruption, is when you should double down on your career in real estate. People are going to seek out you as a counselor or an advisor. And it's when I've been the busiest. Hey, I'm backing it up. At 58, I've become an entrepreneur. I couldn't get Alabama to understand the right side of SEC economics. They thought it was all football. I tried to teach them about the Securities Exchange Commission. Couldn't get there. I was a budget casualty. At 58, I'm walking the walk. I've got my own new venture out there. So I'm only telling you what I'm actually doing myself.
It's 100% true. Everybody's doing it. And what I'd like to do is take a quick break, and then I want to talk about your perspective on Florida, California, the national economy, and some of the sub-economies within the U.S. economy and the disruptions that they're seeing and what the impact is going to be on the economy of Florida in specific. We'll talk about Florida, transportation, logistics, ports, all the impacts on your daily life. You're going to learn about all kinds of really cool stuff right after this. Reagan, take it away. We're going to come back and talk infrastructure with KC Conway. South Florida's longest running business talk show, and I want to get right back to Casey, so I'm going to remind you about our friends at Warren Henry. Warren Henry's been sponsoring the show since 2012. We want to thank Warren, Eric, and Larry. Larry will be back on the show in a couple of weeks talking about all the cool things that are going on in the auto industry. And when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. They're all exceptional cars. They all come with the Warren Henry advantage. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. Down in the Keys, they've got them all. What do they come with? Well, they come with, they're all great cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry advantage. That includes complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, the best value guarantee, and the 72-hour exchange. You can take 3 days to make sure you love your car. So, when you're up there at their new store on 151st and Biscayne, say hi to my friend May Stark. She runs the service up there. She's got great deals all the time. Join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price. Always Warren Henry.
Hey, this is Becca Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. We are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
She's so tremendous. She always helps me look good. She helps coach me through all my social media stuff. She's amazing. Reagan isn't so bad either. Reagan Mendoza helps me look good too. Hey, everybody, give me a call if I can help you with commercial or residential real estate. You heard KC just talk about it. If you need an advisor today, you really do. Residential mortgage, almost impossible to do it on your own anymore. You need to really get coached through. If you want a jumbo mortgage, what's a jumbo mortgage? Anything over $500,000 here in Southeast Florida. Give me a call. I can also do the loans under $500,000. Those are quicker and easier, but they aren't so simple either. Call me at 305-773-6300. We're financing foreigners. We're helping people pull cash out of their investment properties, but you better hurry. As Casey will tell you, things will change quickly. Give me a call at 305-773-6300. Why? Because when you call me, it is always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
Hey, everybody, we're back, and we're back with KC Conway. KC is the founder of Red Shoe Economics, probably the preeminent economist in the southeastern United States, and he's the head economist at the CCIM Institute. KC, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Now, we got an extra guest back there. High five. So, Casey, what I'd like to ask you now is Florida, California. I know a long time ago, California led the way. They were very progressive. They were looked at to as the place to be. Now, people have been leaving in droves. The place is on fire. Taxes are incredibly high. The quality of life is declining, and the workforce is getting older while those other people leave. Versus Florida, where we don't have a lot of fires, where we have good, solid infrastructure, a low-wage economy, and a bunch of good jobs, and the University of Florida, which has broken the top 5 and is heading up to number 1. What do you think, KC? We got now education, we got ports, we got the new turnpike that's coming in on the western side of the state that's going to help, and we've got the relocation of logistics to Mexico with this anti-China thing. Help me understand what's going on.
So several things. So let's start with, some of the good. Let's start macro, like GDP. And by the way, I put on my good Red Shoe Economics forecasting hat just for you here. So let's start with GDP. So when I talk and say, let's talk about GDP, and I ask people, where do you think, which states have taken the hardest hit and which ones have had the least hit? And so they'll say, well, New York, New Jersey, California. And I'd say, no, you'd be wrong. So then they say, well, it's got to be Florida then. I'm like, no, you'd be wrong again. So the states that have taken the biggest hit in state GDP have been, believe it or not, Nevada and Tennessee. They're down over 40%. Florida is like typical most of the southern states that tried to reopen their economies in that 25 to 30% range. So doing well there. What does concern me though about Florida is you guys rank number 3 in terms of job cuts. So while people have been moving and things have been going okay, you're the state with the 3rd most number of job cuts in the country right now. California's 1, New York's 2. But if you keep getting all those people to move down there, maybe we'll get them. Maybe we'll get it all. We'll get it all right here.
Basically, because of the heavy reliance on tourism and hospitality.
So here's one that'll really blow your minds. TREP has a new report out looking at the hospitality industry. And they look at the cities that have had the most distress in hotel assets, the most number of hotel loans that are non-current, delinquent, not doing well. And guess what state had no cities in the top 10? Florida.
Really?
I mean, you look at Atlanta would made the top 10, Nashville made the top 10, obviously New York, San Francisco, but that'll blow a lot of people's minds that, even though it's taken a hit, there are places that are a lot worse in the hospitality industry. So I've started to travel a little bit, and the hotels are figuring it out.
I've seen tourists down here walking around, taking pictures in Wynwood and stuff like that. And I know that there's business travelers that have been regularly traveling, and I really haven't heard that anybody's really getting super sick on the airplanes. I would think that if the airplane travel was a real problem, that they'd be telling us by now.
Yeah, and what's really the problem is the governor. So you look at New York and New Jersey, they put these ridiculous quarantine restrictions. New York just expanded the list from 4 to 43 states. So if you're one of the 43 states on their list, if you fly in, they quarantine you for 10 to 14 days. Who the heck wants to go to New York or New Jersey with those restrictions or do business? And so business is seeing that, and they're packing up and they're really moving south. I see, you look at the top 10 states and MSAs in terms of GDP. So New York, LA, Chicago, and San Francisco are 1 through 4. All that's changing. It's going to shift south. And so these governors are really hurting and adversely impacting. We can manage if people do safe distancing, if they wear masks, there's so many practices that we can do to get us back to normal. But we have governors like in New York and New Jersey that have just destroyed their economy. So fortunately, you have some good political leaders down there that have said, let's try to figure this out.
Well, I've even tried to enter in and get back to normal. I got a haircut today for the first time the thing started, wore a mask, had the whole thing, walked in. No one was wearing a mask. I projected a bit of negative energy, I'm told. But I did go outside and ask them to put a mask on. I went back in and everybody's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody's fine. I just think that there are certain people that want to make a statement without the mask. And I think that in the future, you just got to avoid them. And that's just the way it is.
So one other point, Jimmy, you asked about what's making Florida tick. So it is huge when you look at regulation, pro-business, and taxes. So our good buddy, Todd Jones, I have to give him credit for turning me on to Tax Foundation some time back. But Florida just ranked number 4 among all states and was the only large state to make it. So, it ranked behind Wyoming, South Dakota, and Alaska for least amount of regulation and taxes. But that's incredible. But number 4 in terms of the best overall states for tax climate, property sales, regulation, that's another big piece of this. As we come out of COVID, business is going to grow and relocate to those places where they can just get it done. And Florida is the largest, the largest state in the top rankings. Utah snuck in there, North Carolina. Believe it or not, Alabama, that used to be really well regarded where I came out of, they're now ranked 41st, which surprised me. So, at the bottom is Connecticut, New York, California, New Jersey, 47 to 50. So that's another big part of your equation as you go to the polls and think about the elections. Think about what's worked in Florida. And it's been, those policies about, how you fund yourself, how you regulate yourself, and how you, embrace business.
Well, I think that part of that is that we've always been a low-cost state. I think that has pluses and minuses. I think that we've got some critical social issues that are perhaps underfunded, but we're not going to talk about politics today. I do want to talk about one of the Florida infrastructure things that has been somewhat hotly debated, and that's the toll road that's going to be coming out of basically Lakeland and Tampa and going up that sort of middle western part of the state. It was very controversial, didn't seem to be going anywhere. Now it looks like it's going to be hooking up the Port of Tampa to virtually everywhere.
Yeah, it's important. I wrote a paper a little over a year and a half ago called Logistics Infrastructure. And where you put logistics infrastructure is where we're going to see the evolution of business. So if you look at a map of where Amazon's putting places or Walmart's putting their distribution centers or Home Depot, look at their big announcement they did last year in Plant City, connecting with Port Everglades and bringing everything in through Port Everglades and then getting it up into Plant City in Central Florida. You guys have the new inland empire of California. It's right there in the central part of the state. So all the things you do around your ports and logistics infrastructure is going to pay huge dividends. Look at the light rail system from Miami going all the way to Orlando and then connecting to Tampa and the international businesses. We come out of this. You guys are doing the things that are going to continue to have an economic boom. Logistics infrastructure is the future.
I also Education and technology is the future, and the University of Florida has been beefing it up. We graduate a whole lot of students down here from the colleges in Miami and South Florida, and I really believe that as the workforce gets more educated, that it'll be even more and more attractive. By the way, I do want to say I do love this background, Casey, and the birds singing in the background is absolutely perfect. I'm glad it's still not fall exactly up in Atlanta. Although you are,
the beagle was barking, so I came outside to see if now the birds are chirping. So they love you, Jimmy. They love your background. They're giving two feathers up.
It's tremendous. That's tremendous. Now, one of the things that we talked about on my show a couple of weeks ago, and it's kind of implied in my background, is 5G technology. The infrastructure in 5G technology appears to not be there yet, but it will get there soon. What's the impact of 5G technology going to be on our economy?
So it's going to be huge. So if you think about autonomous trucking, you guys were the first state to do all the legislation to allow for autonomous trucking. You're the first state in the country where, if someone wants to deploy an autonomous truck in South Florida and get it up to Lakeland or the Inland Empire, you can do it. You passed all the liability legislation, the infrastructure, who handles it. Texas is trying to catch up with you to follow, and then Arizona. You need 5G for that. If you want autonomous vehicles, you need 5G for that. This remote work, we need better. With everybody on Zoom and all this stuff, I lose connections, I get distortion. We all need that 5G. So again, if businesses are saying we're going to do more remote work, which KPMG just released a study, 70% of all American CEOs said in this KPMG study that they plan to expand remote work and use less office space even after COVID. So we need that infrastructure, and it's a part of logistics infrastructure. It's not just roads and bridges and ports, but it's the technology and the 5G. So you're exactly right. Do not take your foot off the accelerator on 5G in Florida.
Oh, it's awesome. I'm working on it. I've got a lot of clients that are getting underwritten for it. It's really great. I'm working with my good friend Julio Gonzalez and Mike Donofrio on that.
So let's follow on that, Jimmy. A good one. So you might have remembered before I've talked to you about OTIF, on time and in full. And Walmart introduced this back in 2017, and we said if we're going to take on Amazon, we got to be able to deliver on time and in full. And they said maybe if we can get to like 75 to 80% on time and full, we'll be okay. And the public said, no, with COVID, you better be perfect. So Walmart just increased it to 98% of the time. 98% of all its suppliers and shippers have to deliver all the goods to your house or to the stores or the warehouses 98% of the time, or they pay a 3% penalty on the value of the goods they're handling. There's no profit then for them. So they just introduced this with their Walmart Plus. Well, I talked to my friends at Home Depot, and they said, Casey, we're taking OTIF to a new level. It's OTI triple F. And I said, what does the triple F stand for? And they said, Casey, it's on time in frickin' full faster. We got to do it even faster. And they said all of it is dependent upon 5G. We need 5G at our stores, on our warehouses. So they're looking at where do they get that 5G capacity with all of these e-commerce warehouses in their stores. So you may be seeing, things happen on the top of the roof or around these these key e-commerce locations.
Oh, 100%. There'll be rooftop everywhere. Every hotel will have this on them. Every hotel, every major store, every place where there's a congregation of people. And then in 5 years, they'll winnow it down again and it'll even be tighter. Listen, let's talk commercial real estate finance when we come back. We're going to be right back after the break. We'll talk about what KC sees in commercial real estate finance, availability of cash that's out there, what's it looking for, and what does the future hold next year? Will we start to get crowded out, or will we see increased interest rates? We'll talk about all of that right after we sell a couple of cars for Warren Henry. Florida's longest running business talk show. We've been on the air for for 13 years now. Hey, I want to thank Warren Henry for sponsoring us for 8 of those years. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Warren. And hey, everybody, when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar up in Gainesville. They sell Audi down in the Keys. Well, they've got them all down there. What do they have in common? Well, they're all great cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry advantage. That means you get complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee in the 72-hour exchange. You can take 3 days to decide whether or not you like your new car. Hey, a lot of my friends buy there. My wife buys there. My mom buys there. So join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. And if you're looking for somebody kind to do business with, give me a call at 305-773-6300. Why? Because when you call me, it's always all about you. Residential or commercial, I'm helping all my friends achieve their needs. Remember, my personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams. So let me help you achieve your home dream or your commercial real estate dream. Maybe you just need some new cash to take the pressure off. Call me. I'm doing that every single day. 305-773-6300, commercial, residential. Call me, because when you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
Back with KC Conway, the founder of Red Shoe Economics. KC is the head economist over at the CCIM. He tells them all what's going on. He's going to tell us what's going on. Welcome back to the show, KC.
Thanks, Jim. So, hey, I'll put a little plug in for the CCIM Institute. We have our global virtual conference next week. And so if you are a CCIM or you're considering it, join. It's free to all of our members as a virtual conference, but great on education, great speakers. I'm going to share the rest of my secret sauce I don't share with you today. I'll share next week. So CCIM Institute really doing a good job on the education side. Tune up your skills. They're a good place to get your education.
Now, I want to talk about real estate finance, KC. It seems like every one of these big recessions, we got a new thing in real estate finance. For the RTC recession in the 90s, Ethan Penner brought us CMBS. For the one in 2008, we had a whole nother way that we were starting to finance real estate. Now, what's going to happen now? What I'm seeing is that the family offices and the high net worth individuals are stepping in where maybe even some of the banks would have been there before. I mean, we're seeing problems with the banks. A lot of the investment companies are stepping back. What do you see happening in real estate finance? And, that was it. In 2008, we had crowdfunding. What do you think is going to come in to step in this time? I'm seeing high net worth investors.
So interesting you say that. So what scares me is people are studying, particularly the high net worth investors, are studying what's going on with the Fed and its balance sheet. So a year ago, the Fed's balance sheet was $3.2 trillion. It had been whittled down. It's at $7.2 trillion today. Think of that, $4 trillion, more than doubling their balance sheet. And guess what they've loaded up with? They've loaded up with mortgage-backed securities, a lot of the multifamily, Freddie, Fannie, $2 trillion more in Freddie, Fannie apartments. So if you're worried about multifamily, the Fed's intervening. They're keeping Freddie, Fannie, the Federal Housing Finance Authority going. Multifamily will have the capital it needs, but the rest of it, not so much. The Fed's also been buying securities. They've been, buying the bonds, the corporate bonds of Berkshire Hathaway and Walmart and Amazon, and I'm scratching my head. And then I look down their balance sheet and I look at gold. They only hold $11 billion. So it's a fiat currency. It's all paper. So I worry the Fed is basically devaluing our fiat currency and our money supply. It's up over 20% over the summer. There is a day of reckoning. That's the police coming right now.
We're coming to save the currency now.
They're mad. They're saying, go get him, put him in jail. He's telling the truth. So here's a piece that I would tell everybody to look at. Start looking at bank failures. Believe it or not, they've started again. We've had 4 in the past few months here. You guys had one just this month in Fort Walton Beach, United Fidelity. And these banks, when they go into failure, the FDIC takes them over and they find another buyer. Let me see if I can step in for a second. Well, now it goes away.
It's okay.
So follow this. The Fed is setting up our banks to fail. They're not letting them lend. They're getting ready to crush them with dealing with these problem real estate loans. They've been allowing them to kind of bury them and not deal with it to this point. At the end of the year, next quarter, they're really going to take it out. They're going to punish primarily our community banks. So private capital sees this as an opportunity, whether it's coming in and developing for rent subdivisions like an American Homes for Rent. There's a lot of capital that needs to go to work. Maybe they don't rush in hotels, but they like retail. They like adaptive reuse. They love industrial. Land is a big area. We didn't zone and entitle a lot of industrial land or single family land. So land, I see a lot of land banking and private equity coming in there. So I'd pay close attention. I'll give you another tip. Many of us may have forgotten this little ratio called the Texas ratio. We go way back to our S&L days, and it still exists today. You can go to depositaccounts.com, and they keep it up for every bank in the country, and look at in your state, in your region, which banks are good. A low ratio like 2 to 10% is very, very good. When you start to getting to 25 or especially 50%, you're probably a bank that's ready to fail. So this is an area to keep an eye on, but our banks are not being allowed to lend. They're afraid what the regulatory issues are going to be. The FDIC and the Fed keep putting out these crazy, hard to understand FILs, they're financial institution letters. And they say, it's okay that you did PPP loans, but we're going to come beat the bejesus out of you, in terms of your capital and your loan loss reserves. If any of those loans don't perform, you're going to be held accountable. So I think we are going to see a new evolution, a new generation of private capital step in. The life companies are starting to do it. They've done all their mark to market. They're redoing their allocations. Sovereign wealth, companies that have a lot to do. The other one that's going to come in is, we used to call it ESG investing, environmental social government. It's now called impact investing. Brookfield, Clarion, these big funds are coming in projects that maybe where there's a need. So if the opportunity zones aren't taking off, they'll step in there. They'll take a property, maybe an old rock quarry. You have a few of those in Florida from the limestone, and they'll fix those, and they'll bring affordable housing and or dead malls. So you're exactly right, and they're going to call it impact investing. Put that on your radar screen. Google it. Watch what's happening with impact investing.
Now, one of the things that I've seen going on is that people are trying to team up with developers, investors, people that have been successful before. But it seems to me like when the Fed is buying the corporate paper, that they're somewhat picking winners and losers. It seems like a very interventionist approach.
It is. In fact, one of the one question that I was most disappointed I couldn't get one of the media to cover in any of the three debates we had, the two presidential and one VP, was forget about Supreme Court appointments for a minute. Who's ever president next year, a year from February, we need to appoint a new Fed chair. So are you going to keep Jerome Powell and this insane monetary policy program that we've got going that's going to devalue the dollar and lead to really strong currency inflation 2-3 years down the road? Or who else are you going to pick? So we really need to pay attention to what's going on the Fed, its balance sheet, who's going to be the next Fed chair, bank failures. And remember, we entered this year with the banks having a commercial real estate concentration problem again. It's every bit as great as it was going into 2008 and 9. Over half of the $4+ trillion commercial real estate loans in our entire country are in banks. So the problem's going to be in the banks. I would develop and diversify your lending relationships. Pay attention to that Texas ratio. Look at your banking relationships. See who has a good ratio. And I really tell you, I'm a big proponent of really developing those relationships with your community banks. You have a lot of them in Florida. I'd have 2 or 3 in my back pocket going into 2021.
I talked to a community banker that I closed an $11 million loan with last year. I talked to actually beginning of this year, end of last year. The COVID's got me a little crazed on what year I'm in. But
look at credit unions. So credit unions, you look at Navy Credit Union or you look at Delta, these credit unions are doing major commercial real estate financing. They've really figured it out. They're kind of the reinvented S&L industry in a good and bad way. But if you can't get something done and it's a small, under $5 million deal, and your community bank can't help you, talk to a credit union. Talk to Jim. Jim will get you there.
The credit unions are really doing deals right now. I've got a great friend that runs the entire real estate department in one of the credit unions. She makes all the decisions. So if somebody has a deal under $5 million, they're all over it and she can close. Yeah. But my friend in the major bank, he has friends that are getting nervous about their jobs. And he made a loan for me last year when I called him up to see what they're doing. He says, Jim, since the summer, we've been out of the market. We'll be out of the market till the end of the year. All he's doing is PPP loan recovery and doing his reports for the Fed. He won't be in the market again until January. And I think that is very similar to the rest of the community banks. They're going to be looking for good people and good transactions. And I think right now we're in a pause phase with all that as people try to figure out valuations.
It is. And, our good friend, Todd Jones, he's a good MAI and counselor real estate colleague with me. And, we do the litigation side on all the stupid appraisals that are done out there. I mean, it's bad. CCIM Institute's trying to make sure it does a good job on education. But, the appraisal side, they always like to employ the fourth approach to value, which doesn't exist. It's called averaging. And they don't know which is really a comp versus a sale. And so they just put them all together and they average them. So, and the banks they do what's called fast and cheap appraisals. They want them done really fast and really cheap so you get what you pay for. So you're right to really be paying attention. Don't go cheap on the appraisal. Mention to the bank that you want, a good market assessment done. There aren't a lot of transactions right now to measure value in many property types like retail and hotel. So you've got to really do more of an income approach. And the way you get the inputs for that is look at earnings. Earnings are giving you all the clues, and I'll give you a couple of good ones. So Prologis, big industrial entity, they released about a week ago, and they had good earnings, and they're over 95% occupied. But they had two things that scared the dickens out of me in their earnings release. The first was their retention ratio of tenants. So even though they're over 95% occupied, their retention ratio of tenants slipped from over 80% to around 71%. That tells me there's a lot of tenant turnover, especially the smaller tenants or those that might have serviced a restaurant group or a smaller retail group. The second one was their average cap rate that they're paying for new assets that they're putting in place was 4.3%. Oh my God, where's the upside? I'd rather look at maybe another REIT like I'm involved with where their average cap rate's above 6, where there's real upside value, but it's telling you how aggressive things are getting out there. So if you're valuing a warehouse, cap rate isn't 6 or 7 anymore. It's like in the 4. So lots of good intel in these earnings. So look at those to help you in the valuations or to push back on a bad appraisal.
The appraisals are going to be the most important because a lot of these private investors really don't understand what's going on the real estate, and they just want to make sure that they're not getting caught with somebody that's lying to them. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, then we'll come back and finish it off with KC. Stick with us. This is where KC gives his predictions for 2021. Tells us what's not going to happen. So I couldn't resist, KC. So Ray, take it away. We'll be right back with KC Conway and all his projections. And remember, what does an economist do? He makes sure we know what's not going to happen. Back after this. All right, everybody. We're South Florida's longest running business talk show. Been on since 2008. That makes us entering our 13th year. We get great guests like KC all the time so that you can get great information that you can put to use today to make your life better. And hey, I want to thank our sponsors for the last 8-9 years, Warren Henry Automotive. And when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. They're all great cars. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audi. Down in the Keys, they've got them all. Warren makes sure they're tremendous cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry Advantage. Complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee, 72-hour exchange. And then they've got a great team of people that work with them, including my particular contact and service, May Stark. She makes sure our cars always run great and that we get every special that's out there. Their place is clean as a whistle. So join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian, and lots of my friends We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price, always Warren Henry.
Hey, this is Becca Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. We are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
She's so great. If you get an email from me about the show or something I'm working on, it always comes from Rebecca. They do great work up there. I recommend them very, very highly. And hey, if you need some financing in commercial or residential real estate, give me a call. We talked about pivoting. I pivoted to residential, but that doesn't mean I don't have my 35 years of commercial contacts as well. I was on the phone today with my contacts from New York, talking to one of my contacts in Florida about healthcare. So healthcare, residential, commercial, industrial. We're doing an industrial deal. Condo inventory loan. That's right. All the bridge financing. I've got it right here for you. They're good people. They're not predatory. Give us a call at 305-773-6300. I'll say it again. My clients, we are not predatory, and that's a big thing right now. We want to help you get to the next part of the economy. So call me at 305-773-6300. Why? And it particularly matters right now. Why when you call me? Because when you call me, it really is all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
Well, everybody can see I'm not a pro on TV because I'm just like so shiny today. You know, they got to have like Instagram powder that they sell. I don't know. Anyway, we're here with KC Conway. He always brings a smile and good cheer to his economic forecasts. I was telling them we're going to talk about 2021, and I was saying how KC's an economist. He doesn't know what's going to happen. BS. KC knows exactly what's going to happen. With all of the government printing all this money, we all know that interest rates eventually are going to have to go up. How far, how fast? And thank goodness real estate is the ultimate inflation hedge.
You are so right, Jimmy. I'll give you what my, my 5 best thoughts going forward are. I shared these yesterday with CoreNet Global in their annual program. So I'll give you my 5, but because I'm the Red Shoe Economist, we try to do like you, Jimmy. We're working 8 days a week to service our clients in the CCIM. So, we don't take a 7th day. If I had been in charge of creating the world, I would have worked all the way to 8 days, and I'd have made sure the humans were a better creature, and we wouldn't have screwed the place up. So here are my top 5. Number 1, GDP is going to continue to migrate to workforce and logistics infrastructure. That's phenomenal for the Southeast United States, the southern states, and Florida. You have workforce, you have universities like University of Florida, incubate in Gainesville, some of the most number of entrepreneurial and small businesses there. You have great logistics infrastructure. You have the other inland empire there in Lakeland and Central Florida. And you have more ports and harbors than any other state. And if you put any 3 together, you have more container traffic and goods than Charleston and Savannah combined. Number 2, Housing is going to be rethought. This is why you need to engage with Jim. So before you enter into a rent forbearance or you do a mortgage forbearance, please talk to Jim about the implications, how to maybe save your house, if there's a better solution in refinancing. Don't get yourself tangled up in a rent or mortgage forbearance without talking to Jim about other solutions in refinancing. But we're going to see for rent subdivisions. It's happening now. They're all over the southern United States. Check out a company, American Homes for Rent. I don't own anything. I don't get anything from them. I've been watching a lot of their projects in the Southeast here. Adaptive reuse. We're going to see housing go into former department stores. I've already seen several examples of that. Number 3, work models will be redefined impacting office CRE. We are not all going back to dense environments. We've discovered we don't like long commutes. We're going to be scarred, like after 9/11 for years, about getting back into high-dense situations. You can't get everybody into the office at 4 per elevator cab in high-rise buildings. It takes 2 to 3 hours to get them in and 2 to 3 hours to get out. So what we're going to do is we're going to probably see companies add office space. Vacancy is not going to rise. They're going to add more space for more distancing, but they're going to reprice it. They're not going to pay $40 and $50 a square foot. They might only pay $20 because they're getting half the density, or they're going to the suburbs, and they'll create kind of hub and spoke things using branch banks or those old 1980 vintage office business parks that we wanted to throw away the last 10 years. Number 3, retail evolution continues and will accelerate. It's beyond what we buy in malls and grocery. It's in casual dining. It's in autos. Look at what's happening with Carvana and TrueCar and AutoNation in their earnings. AutoNation, another great Florida company, just set records in their earnings for the third quarter. 4th, highest and best use. We need to pay attention to this. Is that long forgotten thing that was the same 2-page document in appraisals that said, yeah, it's physically possible. Yeah, it's legally permissible. Yeah, everything's economically feasible. And what I'm using the property for today is maximally productive. Barbecue sauce. That's the polite way of calling BS on something. We need to revisit it. Yeah, I'll give you 2 examples. Occupancy restrictions. They're an imposition in what's legally permissible. And in Florida, you're going to see litigation develop where companies, big hotel companies, big national restaurant and retail chains take on local government and claim that occupancy restrictions are a form of inclusionary zoning or eminent domain, and they're going to sue them and put them back on their heels, and it's going to play into property tax assessments over the next 2 years. The other one is ESG scoring. Everybody's doing impact investing. ESG, environmental social governance, didn't die with COVID. The S maybe has become as important as the E. It's going to impact cap rates and capital flows. So those are my top 5. The others, logistics, the OTIFFF, it's going to be faster, not just on time and in full, but it's got to be freaking faster. On that side. The other 2, pay attention to the Fed, pay attention to what's happening with bank and CRE capital and bank failures. Those are where opportunities exist. That's where an advisory role is needed to help deploy capital to what's needed in CRE, because the regulators and the Fed have really screwed the system up. So those are my top 8, working 8 days a week for you.
Love you, KC. Let's talk a little bit about red shoe economics. Tell me a little bit about what red shoe economics is formed to focus on, and what you'll be focusing on through the end of the year.
Sure. So originally I offered red in terms of red shoes to the University of Alabama, but they said, nah, we don't like that. You can be the Roll Tide economist. And I said, yeah, but that doesn't make me very valuable outside Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So they put the quash on that. We've separated. I was a budget casualty. So the red I adopted really year and a half, 2 years ago is a CCIM red. So really, I'm the CCIM Chief Economist. We have fun with CCIM red. They're good sports about it. It's good branding. So I continue in my role as the CCIM Chief Economist, very honored and really value that role. So what I wanted to do is get out and basically be able to do those things I'm good at. I think I'm good at connecting the dots, bringing common sense to, what otherwise seems boring and complicated economics. Forget what the GDP number is. How does it translate to my state, my city, and my business? Forget about what, certain credit metrics mean in CRE. How does that translate by property type in my market? So we're really a boutique entity that tries to really bring that common sense, relatable economics to our clients and environment. I do a lot of expert witness work, a lot of property tax work with our friend, Todd Jones at Real Advice. He crushes it. He's done a great job for you guys in Florida in the hotel industry. And so that's what we're all about. I'll also point out 2 things. We are a women majority minority owned business. I have two excellent women partners. And the college interns we've hired so far are all women. So I'm the minority old gray-haired man in the group. So we're trying to walk our own ESG and really bring kids in, create the opportunity that's not there in these colleges and universities. They're not internships. There's not assistantships. They're not giving them experiential learning. So we're reaching down and we're bringing undergrad and graduate real estate and business kids in to work with us on projects and pay them a little bit and give them experience. So we're all about, it's not about making $1 million and being the most profitable economist. It's about being the most relatable and someone that you actually could sit down and have a beer with and not throw me out of the room.
and not have too much barbecue sauce in the mix.
Hey, if somebody gets it wrong, the Red Shoe Economist, we're going to issue our own brand of Red Shoe barbecue sauce. And when somebody gets it wrong, we're going to send them a jar of Red Shoe Economics barbecue sauce and let them know why it was wrong.
Well, I hope
You'll never get one, so I don't know if you'll ever taste it. You're always right, Jim.
You're tremendous. Listen, I'm right because I bring you on the show. Everybody asks questions. I want to go over some of the questions that they've asked. We talked about what should people pivot to, and what they should pivot to is something that relates to the future of the economy. They should look at everything and they should think about it and find out the impacts. And we talked about a little bit about the evolution of retail, and it's not that it's going away. It's that the retailers will be different and they'll evolve. Like, for instance, the dollar stores having the brand extension to try to reach up into new people. So, one last thing we can talk about brand reinvention. There's a lot of retailers that are dying, that are dinosaurs, the Gap, Neiman Marcus, things like that. Casey, we've got a couple of minutes left. What do you think is really going to happen with these really well, publicized brands? Will they be retraded? Will they be reformed, or will they just go away?
So we're seeing a lot of valuable brands. They work well in an e-commerce platform. They just don't need the physical real estate. They don't need as many bodies. But a lot of these brands, think of like Craftsman Tools. I'd love to find where can I buy my Craftsman Tools. They have huge value. So I don't think the brands go away. And we see really smart entities step in and buy some of them, but we're just not going to need as much of the physical type real estate, which means our number one skill set in commercial real estate is probably going to be adaptive reuse. How can I look at a vacant store, an office building, a troubled hotel? How can I reimagine what I would do with it? And then how do I work with local government to get that redone? And it doesn't have to be a big, complicated mega deal. It can be something as simple. One of my best examples I give is a former Dave & Buster's. So I've worked with a few of those where the former Dave & Buster's has been acquired for last mile delivery and supply stock. The challenge is it requires a rezoning from commercial to industrial. The local government goes crazy because they think it's a lot of truck traffic. But when you explain to them it's not big tractor trailers, it's Amazon and FedEx kind of delivery trucks, they get over it and they help you out. So I think adaptive reuse is going to be a big one. And then I think capital. Like you said, capital is changing. Every one of these major disruption cycles, we have to reinvent a substantial portion of capital. And the Fed has really hurt our banks. Think if you're a banker, how do you make money? You're at zero interest rates. You have no net interest margin. You have to reserve all your capital. You can't issue dividends. I really feel for our banks, and we really need, I think, a new type of Fed chair after the elections to basically sit back and think about how important banks and capital and our community bank infrastructure is to making our capitalistic economy work. I'll give you my final two kind of predictions. I predict that in the elections, half of America will not be happy. A divided country. How's that for copping out? The other one is that I fear we will not know the November elections in the month of November. And I recommend everybody go try to find and purchase the board game Landslide from 1971. It's all about the Electoral College, and it teaches unique things. And if this thing gets so off track, where we have states where the elections can't be certified, the Supreme Court is not going to rule. It's just going to be like Florida with the hanging chads. They're going to say it's a state's issue. Your states need state right. You need to figure it out. So if they can't certify their elections by the time the new Congress has to be sworn in and seated in early January, then those states might not have representation. But the way it works is the newly seated Congress picks the president. So imagine that they could pick anybody. So when you talk about fun way to learn economics and politics and history, go invest in the 1971 original version, not the remade 2004, the original 1971 landslide board game. Have a great time this Halloween with your family playing it. Teach your kids about electoral college and our economy. And everybody go vote. I mean, this is your opportunity. However you feel, go out and make sure your voice is heard. Please make sure you do that. Don't
100%, especially in places like Georgia and Florida. I want to thank you because you picked up on what I'm doing. I'm doing private equity deals with adaptive reuse projects. I've got 5 of them going on right now. So as always, Casey, thank you for endorsing my business plan.
You're always 2 steps ahead. And the other one, Jim, is if you're feeling a little achy and you're worried about your haircut, cannabis cosmetics, they do work. It's gonna be bigger than cannabis edibles or the original cannabis from the 1960s. Cannabis cosmetics.
Got it in the other room. The massage therapist uses it all the time. 100%. Casey, my gosh, I got to have you back again. It's never soon enough to have you back. We ran a little over. That's okay. I want to thank you so much for being on the show today, KC Conway. I want to give a shout out to the first responders. I want to thank Todd Jones for introducing Casey and I. Thank you to Warren Henry for being our sponsor for almost a decade. The NFL Alumni Association, Creco AI, Carlson Integrated, Turkel Brands, the Bergstrom Center for Real Estate Studies. I want to thank our listeners and our viewers. I want to ask you to go to our Facebook page, LinkedIn, Twitter, all that stuff. We're everywhere. If you missed today's show, Regan will have it up, and we'll be having it up for sure Saturday morning in the Fabulous Forum. It'll be up on YouTube and everything. It's Jim Freed for Freed on Business. Look for us next Wednesday at noon. We're going to have our tech show with Andre Sene. It's going to be awesome. Why? Because I just love doing this. Can you tell? Remember, the person who wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen. I want to thank again my good friend, KC Conway, for being here today. God bless you. God bless America. Go out and vote. Thank you.